We have a report that was due to be on the 8 o'clock, and I think if we can do that and do it here, that would be the Mediation Center, get the update on that. I think we can get that done in the 25 minutes that we have left.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. And if the staff to the table. As you mentioned, this is an item that was scheduled in the regular session under the City Manager's report, which is an informational update regarding Bellevue's Conflict Resolution Center, or formerly known as the Neighborhood Mediation Program. And as Council is aware, this program provides assistance for residents to resolve neighbor-to-neighbor disputes. And the value of this program just continues to grow given the amount of growth the city is experiencing right now, especially in the area of cultural diversity. And so staff have prepared a brief informational presentation this evening. And so joining us this evening is Marcy Reynolds and Cheryl Cohen, are co-managers of the Conflict Resolution Center, as well as Brian Ugai, who's the Conflict Resolution Center volunteer. I'll go ahead and turn it over to you, Marcy.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, Mayor Chominick and Deputy Mayor Robinson and council members, and thank you, City Manager Miyake, for introducing us. So I'm Marcy McReynolds, and co-manager of the Bellevue Conflict Resolution Center, and which is, as Mayor Miyake just said, is a new name. We renamed ourselves last year from the Bellevue Mediation Center because we do more than mediation now. And we work quietly away up in room 2E 105, quietly because most of what we do is confidential. But our mission that we try to fulfill is to build the problem-solving capacity among the people who live and work in Bellevue. And we do this in a number of ways. We have the majority of our work is cases where people are in conflict. We also teach classes both for the city employees and out in the community. We have a training program, actually a certification program for volunteers. And we also, in the past few years, have begun a program for facilitating public participation. And we're going to be telling you a little bit more about that. People primarily call our program when they're in conflict. And we help them face one of the biggest fears that people have is approaching the other person and figuring out how to work something out. We have a belief in self-determination, that people make their own decisions and figure out what they want. We don't give them advice. We lead them to their own answers. Our volunteers do, as well as staff. And we help them listen to one another, try to understand each other, often across huge differences, and to negotiate and to work to find a resolution that's the best for both, or best for all. Sometimes it's just two people, sometimes it's large groups. So we try to have a win-win instead of win-lose, is often the case in the legal world. One of the things that, some of the trends that we've noticed in the past year in the cases that come to us are that, well, of course, there's trees, and trees. And then there's fences. Sometimes fences don't make good neighbors. And then there are landlord-tenant issues are increasing, as well as cultural differences either fuel a conflict that's going on or is the conflict in itself because people don't understand each other. But I am now going to turn it over to Cheryl Cohen, who is an artist at mediation and at mentoring mediators. So, Cheryl?
Well, thank you, and it's a pleasure to be here tonight to see all of you. I've been here since the program began in 1996, and I thank all of you, council members, for supporting the program. Started as a volunteer for the first 10 years, then moved into this position as co-manager of the program. It's a program I'm passionate about, and again, I commend all of you for being almost as passionate and supporting the program all these years. So in helping people resolve conflict, we offer a whole range of services. The first thing we do is what we call conciliation. We talk with people on the phone to coach them to solve the problem themselves. And if that's not appropriate, we conciliate, shuttling between the parties to help them negotiate an agreement on their own. And then if that's not working, we ask them to come face-to-face to a mediation here and negotiate in person and come out with a written agreement. The volunteer program is huge. The kinds of issues that we deal with, as Marcy said, are things to do with noise, parking, barking dogs, fences, trash cans left outside. You name it, we seem to get all those issues. A lot between landlord, tenant, and property managers, between parent and teen, between business and consumer, and between residents and the city. When we prioritize the volunteers to recruit and retain them, these are your very own friends, neighbors, all of our Bellevue community. You may know some of them. Brian is sitting here tonight, and he'll tell you more about that. But our volunteer cadre speaks a whole variety of languages. We seem to need Cantonese, Mandarin, and Spanish primarily. And in addition to receiving a 24-hour conciliation training, the volunteers then go on to receive a 40-hour basic mediation training and are then invited to participate in monthly in-service trainings, things like cross-cultural communication, trees, fences. We just had one last week on landlord-tenant property managers. And so with all the skills that the volunteers are gathering in, as Marcy her forte is the art of listening. They come out with listening skills, communication skills, negotiation skills, all kinds of learning themselves about conflict styles. And all those skills they then transfer back to their own communities, to the Bellevue community. And we ask them to be ambassadors, to work in their own HOAs, their own neighborhoods, to foster those skills amongst their own neighbors. And we've had tremendous results.
So mentioning the community, I said that we also have, we do classes and we do public participation. So one of the things that it first came about dealing with sound transit with Eastlink coming through the south neighborhoods. And so we used our seasoned volunteers, we trained them in a hurry as table facilitators and got out there and did a listening session with people who were very angry, and that seemed to be successful. And so we've trained our cadre in facilitation skills, de-escalation skills, and they're now helping with all sorts of meetings with the shelter, Luca, to get input from the community. We're working with neighborhood area planning. We work with the Muslim Immigrant Safety Forum, with the 6 cities and the police. We do cultural conversation, which is kind of facilitation light. And so we do a lot of, we did the affordable housing open house. So we look forward to doing more of that. Another program, which as Cheryl mentioned is sort of dear to our hearts, is the community training that we do. And one of the things that's happened this past year really gives me hope for the world. And that is that we have a partnership with King County Libraries in the Bellevue libraries. And last year, I went to go speak to them, or a year before, to see if we could start teaching classes in the libraries. And they said that they had just done a survey countywide, and they'd gotten 11,000 responses asking what kind of programming, books, etc. people wanted. 85% of the people said they wanted something on civility. They wanted programming on civility. Well, here we were offering classes in listening. And those numbers bore out in the attendance. I walked into Lake Hills Library, and I saw all these people, and I went, oh, they must have double booked the room, because I was thinking 10, 20 people surely would show up for a 4-week class in listening. And it was filled to fire capacity, actually a few more, and we had to send like 20, 25 people away. And every class this past year has been that full with a wait list. We actually overbook like the airlines and then have a wait list. So they've been full, and I think that that's saying that people want a gentler world and are willing to do the personal work to help that happen. So it gives me great hope to see that. And speaking of gentle, I wish to introduce Brian Ugai, who is one of our star volunteers. He is both highly capable and tenacious as a mediator. So, Brian?
Okay, thank you. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to speak this evening. I've volunteered at the Conflict Resolution Center for the past 2 years, and I thought I would share 3 things that really make me feel good about volunteering at the center. First, I enjoy helping fellow residents. You know, it just takes an exchange of a few words that can cause a dispute and have neighbors spiral to a very difficult place. And providing just some coaching or conciliation can make a real difference, to enable the neighbors to, understand each other and respect each other's opinions or perspectives, and that leaves them in a much better place going forward. Secondly, I feel good about supporting the city by being at the center. Providing a dispute resolution center makes residents feel like the city listens and cares, and our center gives the other departments in the city a place to refer frustrated residents that, the city can't really do anything for them, but they really want to be listened to. And, it continues to surprise me how consistently people express appreciation from our help, even though they don't get the solution, the solution they hope for, but they just still are very appreciative for the help. And thirdly, I value being part of a team with quality people who are always trying to improve. So Cheryl, Marcy, and Natalie Daniels, they're always focused on coaching us, which forces us really to get better in our skills in coaching, mediating, conciliating, and again, listening. Listening is probably the main thing that I've really learned to be a better listener, although my wife probably does not agree with that. But anyway, enhancing our skills enables us to make a bigger impact on the community. So the better we get, the more impact we can make. And as a volunteer, I appreciate having the opportunity to learn, the opportunity to help others, and the opportunity to contribute to the city that the center provides me. And as a resident, I just appreciate that the city does provide a dispute resolution or conflict resolution center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'm actually going to go now and do it the opposite way. So I'm going to go with Mr. Neuenhaus first here. But do keep in mind we've got about 12 minutes.
I'll try to keep it to 11.
You're on the clock.
Well, thanks so much for that great update, and that gives me hope as well in the world that we see that great engagement, and people want to learn better listening skills and be a part of solutions in the right way. I mean, personally, I thought you just could send Mike Hummelman, McCormick, out to all these disputes, and he can do it himself. He doesn't, he's just so good in the neighborhoods. But honestly, this is such a great program, and I'm just curious on a couple of different just stats there. You said volunteers. So how many volunteers are currently in the program, and how many cases on average are you resolving, or not even resolving, but how many cases total are you looking at every single year as well?
So currently we have about 35 active volunteers,
35.
but we have a whole cadre of people who have taken the classes before, the trainings before, and keep coming back in one way or another. We have about 300 to 350 cases over the past many years, and our resolution rate is about 82%, which is up
82%.
from past years. We're doing much more conciliations on the phone than in-person mediations.
Oh, fantastic. And do you have any, I don't know how many other cities have something
None.
like this.
Interesting
None.
question. We're
Yeah.
members of Resolutions Washington, which is a state consortium of dispute resolution centers. We are the only one housed in the city. Vancouver, Washington, where I came from, actually used to have,
Oh, no
but they
kidding.
cut them loose with budget cuts.
Oh, wow.
And so it's a rare thing for a city to have a conflict resolution center inside of it. So that's not to say cut us loose, that's say be proud of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, great. Thanks, and thanks
Yeah.
again for all your work.
Thank you, Ms. Song. Do you have anything to
Yeah,
add?
actually, just a quick one. So aren't the volunteers teens? Do you reach down to teenagers to help with that?
We had a parent-teen volunteer program for many years, and for various reasons, we are no longer training the teens in the high schools. There was less and less interest. There was more peer mediations in the high schools, and more of the restorative circles, restorative justice programs coming into the schools. So there was less of a call to our center. We continue to do parent-teen mediations, but more with two adults instead of an adult and a teen.
Because the school then is actually, they have their own programs, is what I
Yes.
hear you saying, for their teens to do that.
Right.
That sounds great. I really like the partnership with the King County Library System, because to me, they're everywhere. The libraries are throughout our community, and so the ability to do that. So I like the fact that there's a waiting list, because that means that we hopefully are getting to be a more civility in our community, which I think we so desperately could use right now.
And it's interesting, the people who are coming to those classes are actually reflect the diversity in the city as well. So it's
So they're
fascinating.
finding that this is a pathway for them to come, and they feel safe in using the Center for Reconciliation or
And it helps them get to
Conciliation.
know each other too, you know. It's
Thank
really
you.
nice, yeah.
Great, thank you. Mr. Stokes, did you have anything?
Yeah, that's one of the questions I was going to ask you is what, the makeup of the people who come in, so it's pretty diverse. It really reflects the city.
Very much so.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great sign that people are, very working together in all parts of the communities. That's I think, a good kind of barometer of that.
There are people coming to classes and calling the center who are reflect the city's diversity, and at the same time, a lot of conflicts are fueled by misunderstandings that different cultures
Sure.
have, different styles of dealing with conflict, et cetera, and communication styles. Yeah.
Which means that you cover a lot of different areas, and it's not your old type of approach.
It's huge. Yeah, we did
it
a
is
huge
good.
study for about a year and a half on how people from more, and actually I remember you introducing this class on I-we communication on people from more collective cultures and people from individualistic cultures, how we talk differently. And so the volunteers have been trained in that as well. Yeah.
I know that you gave great statistics and all. I know a lot of people know it, but it seems to me that a lot more people need to know. And it seems like there's a lot of, in this time, I mean, there's so much going on, and people are more engaged in which is good. So it would seem like your work is very positive, and it's mostly positive. I mean, it's really not mediating, fistfights over things. It's more of how to get people together, so it's.
Some
much
cases
simpler.
seem
It might be.
pretty intractable. As in terms of cases, they might be 5 minutes, and it could be 5 months that
That's
we're
what I was
dealing with
gonna
a
ask,
case.
kind of what's
you know.
the timing on those?
So there are no two cases
Yeah,
are alike,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. No,
Or
it's very good.
3
It really-
years, I think we had one that was
Really?
3. Oh, yeah. I won't go into that. Confidentiality.
Mr.
Well, I absolutely support keeping you part of the city, so.
Wonderful.
Great, thank you.
Wonderful.
Always enjoy going in and seeing what you're doing and watching that you have people, as you walk by.
Mr.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lee.
It's a great way, it's a great thing to connect with people, to engage with people. With people like you, very enthusiastic, very obviously very involved and committed to this. Keep up the good work. We'll always be there for you. Thank you.
And you're all welcome to come to our classes.
Yes.
You've been asking me for the
I
last
know I have.
15 years.
Councilmember Robertson.
Thanks for coming. This is a great program. I'm very supportive. We're so lucky that we have so many volunteers in this program, which is very time intensive, but in a lot of our different programs, we really couldn't provide the community service that we do without our volunteers. So thank you for that. Please make sure that all the volunteers understand how much we appreciate their work. I know that, and am absolutely supportive of keeping this program. I think it's one way that we really do a good job of community building. I know that the city of Kirkland sends their residents for mediation to Bellevue. Do other cities also send their residents, or is that just Kirkland?
Yeah.
It's just Kirkland.
Okay.
We had an agreement back in 1996 that was, that we would share resources. Several of their staff volunteer with us, and we provide some of their cases.
That's great. I think that that's a wonderful way to help each other and build a stronger region. So thank you very much for coming and showing this program to us and to the public. It's a good resource. Thanks.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Robinson.
Thank you. Excellent presentation. There's three things I'm really proud about with our city. One is the program that you do. The other is our parole program, which keeps our recidivism rate very low. And the third one is the pioneering work that our police have done with their de-escalation training. And I think that these are things that keep a growing city full of very intelligent people successful. And I really want to thank you for the work that you've done. I have two questions for you. Do you publicize your services on Nextdoor so that people are aware? Yes, okay, good. And the other thing is, I know some things can't always be resolved just with the mediation and resolution work that you do. Do you, and not everybody can afford good legal help, so do you refer to ELAP? Do you partner with them?
Yes, go ahead.
We at one time, we actually partnered with them, and we had volunteers going out, I think it was Tuesday evenings, and it seemed that there was much more interest in the litigation or the legal aspect than the mediation. So we refer to each other, but we no longer send our volunteers to share the time there.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Great. I do. I'm going to try to not put you on the spot, since confidentiality is an important part, without breaching any confidentiality. Any one or so case that you've had that you just took particular pride in being able to solve? Maybe people were just at total loggerheads and you were able to help solve it. Maybe it was something that one person thought was a small dispute. It was something big to someone else. Just very quickly, is
You
there?
want to share one? But we do have to honor confidentiality, but yeah.
But I think our main teachings is in getting to the underlying interests. We're a facilitative model. We're not a distributive model. We don't do shuttle mediation. So it's hard for some of our attorneys to understand that we are there to put people in the same room at the same time to come to resolution. And if you get to the underlying interests, beyond the surface of, I want the tree down, I want the tree up, what's really important to you, they come to a whole new understanding. Oh, I'm a tree lover too. I remember in one of my mediations, he sat back and he said, wow, I didn't know you're a tree lover like me. We need to spend more time together. And there was this whole kind of kumbaya that came out of it. And they were able to resolve it on their own, getting to what's important to you.
And sometimes people get up and walk out, because people are standing in one of their biggest fears, which is of not getting what they want or being told they're wrong. And dealing with conflict is very hard for people. So it's hard for anybody to sit in the heat of a mediation. But we really do try to, balance power, help people hear each other, and find common ground. And as Cheryl just said, to find out what's down underneath in the taproot, the common needs that you have, and finding out each other's story. I mean, you just see this wonderful, sometimes people will hear just the right thing, and then you'll hear this, and then okay, we might get an agreement.
Great. Well, we had a great day on Saturday opening up a new park.
Yes.
And as I said at it, what cities do is we're catalysts to create great communities. Your program does exactly that. So yes, it's parks, but yes, it's a program like this that brings people together, solves their issues. And it's just spectacular that the city has and has long had a program like this. So thank you very much. I'm really glad we got done with the discussion a little bit earlier. I think we had a little more time to spend on your program tonight here in study session than in the other room.
Great.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
With that, we will adjourn the study session, and we will begin in 5 minutes the regular session.